Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Imperial Diecast. And I've reviewed a couple of Herpa planes so far, but I hadn't shown you the most iconic plane yet, the jumbo jet, the Boeing 747. So here she is. The 747-400 is probably the most prolific variant of the 747 because the Dash 100, 200, and 300s are old. Like, really old. And the newest is the 747-8, but the 747-400 is like the workhorse. Easiest way to recognize it is by the winglets. Now, I got this model without box, but together with a 737 and a 767 for €10. Amazing deal. However, this plane has a few imperfections that I didn't notice in the eBay product photos, and which I will show you over the course of this review. So let's get started. So as always, we're going to begin by taking a look at the side of the aircraft, and you can see right here that just a little to the left of the L1 door, there is a paint bubble, which is pretty annoying. At the very left, we have the Lufthansa logo, and to the right of the L1 door, of course, we have the huge Lufthansa branding. Now, this Lufthansa title was a little smudged, like some of the blue had sort of escaped onto the fuselage of the aircraft, but what I did was I used a microfiber cloth and a little bit of rubbing alcohol, and then very carefully rubbed on that area to get rid of it, while making sure not to get anywhere close to the window lines or to the actual Lufthansa titles. Underneath the window line, you can see that it says Boeing 747-400. The doors have the door levers printed on them. However, the emergency exit door on the upper deck does not have any lever. Some of the windows are closed, the rest are open, which is something that I like, that old Herpa used to do. And now as we move along the side of the fuselage, you can see right here that we have the German flag, and usually there would be the plane's registration number, but this is a very early Herpa model, which is why it does not come with the registration. And then of course we have the great Lufthansa crane in the center of the vertical stabilizer. One of the most iconic logos there is. And here's a look at the horizontal stabilizers. You can see it does have the elevators modeled on it. Now, as we move along to the wings of the aircraft, they have a basic level of detail on them. There are no markings whatsoever. However, you can see the flaps, ailerons, and air brakes on them. And here's a closer look at the winglet. Now as we move on to check out the engines, these are supposed to be Pratt & Whitney PW4000s. It's a little hard to see the fan blades, which is actually rare on older Herpa models, as they didn't shade them like they do with the new models. But due to the small diameter of the engines compared to the plane, I can't quite get the camera to focus on them. But you should be able to see something. I have a basic level of detail. And then over here, you can see that this is the old generation Herpa with the old generation clunky landing gear. But I think on a 747, it doesn't look too big. And here's another look at the upper deck window line, where you can see that some of the windows have rubbed off, because I'm assuming the previous owner tried to clean this plane using alcohol wipes, and then he wasn't very careful and went over the windows too much. But yeah, very iconic plane. Moving on to the front of the aircraft, you can see that the cockpit windows are there, but they don't have any great detail like cockpit window frames or window wipers or anything like that. They do their job, though. And at the front you can also see some additional damage on the nose of the 747. Let's just assume they were bird strikes. As we take a look at the bottom of the plane, you can see that the trailing edge fairings are modeled, and you can also see the flaps and slats from under the wing, basically. There is one molding hole here. I don't know exactly what it is, because it's not there on the other wing, or maybe it is. I don't know. It's kind of blocked. The back of the engines looks good, because sometimes Herpa forgets to model these exhaust cones right here. And it doesn't say Herpa on the belly of the aircraft. Up here it says B747-400. Over the past 30 years, Herpa have released many different versions of the Lufthansa Boeing 747-400 and kept bringing out the newer versions with slightly improved detail levels every single time. Back in the day, when all Herpa aircraft still had the old landing gear like this one, the improvements were only in the livery. For example, the new details they added on Lufthansa 747-400s released in the years following this one was the Star Alliance logo right here, a small emergency exit hatch for the pilots above it, and cargo doors on the starboard side of the aircraft. They also added a silver frame around the cockpit windows, as well as a small door lever for this door up here, just like all the other doors already have on this model. And they also added a registration next to the German flag here and on the top of the vertical stabilizer to know which plane the model is supposed to be representing. And one such improved but still old generation 747-400 Lufthansa model is named Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, after one of the 16 German states. Another such plane is the Berlin, which came with its own display case and had extra details printed on the wings. Then Herpa started releasing the new generation Lufthansa 747 sometime in the mid-2000s, and the new generation models came with scale-accurate landing gear and even more extra details like a silver trim on the leading edge of the wings and also on the horizontal and vertical stabilizers as well, like on the one nicknamed Saarland, although it lacked the markings on the wing like the Berlin had. Either way, since my 747-400 is one of the very first old generation Herpas, it doesn't have any of these extra details. But you only start learning about these details as you collect, right? And from a distance, especially if you aren't a Herpa catalog expert, can you really notice things that are supposed to be there? All in all, it still gives off a classic Lufthansa 747 look. I say classic instead of retro because the retro Lufthansa livery looked completely different. Had like a blue band around the window line and a black radome in the front, and the entire underbelly was polished aluminum. And the current livery has the white Lufthansa logo and the blue trim extending much further down than stopping at the base of the tail fin. So yeah, nice classic Lufthansa 747 for a fraction of the price of the other ones. And here's a comparison to another Lufthansa, a Boeing 737-200, and you can just see the wide spectrum of plane model sizes in the 1/500 scale. Because they're both the same scale, but wildly different. Not so much when it comes to the price, though. If you're interested in more plane reviews, please make sure to check out some of the other videos that I have uploaded, and take care. This is Imperial Diecast, signing out.